Currently the car isn't road legal.
It's a bit burnt and melted.
Car might need scrapped.
Those mouse droppings.
No MOT.
Best before February 2013.
I'm gonna have to take the gearbox out. I've gone and done something absolutely insane. I've bought not only the cheapest S600 for sale in the country, the cheapest V12 car of any kind currently for sale. Yes, this S600 cost me just £3,500. No MOT, the gearbox doesn't properly work, but it's purple. I've even got my purple shoes on to match. I bought this car off the YouTuber Auto Alex, who was a lovely bloke. He bought this car with many other cars in a barn find, and I've taken over the project. Naturally aspirated V12 engine, extended wheelbase, it's purple, full tan interior, independent rear reclining seats, it's got a fridge, it's got a telephone, it's got sat-nav in the year 2000. This thing is epic, or rather it will be epic when I've finished with it. In this video we're going to find out everything that's wrong with this car. This could be where the video ends. The car might need scrapped. Currently the car isn't road legal, obviously it's got no MOT. Also, I wouldn't want to drive it on the road. It's not changing gear, it's not been serviced in nearly a decade, so definitely not the time to drive it on the road. We're going to load it up onto a trailer very shortly, but just look at that colour in the sun. The car is worth it for that colour alone. However, there's one very big problem here. If I was in charge, this would be an MOT failure in itself. I just cannot imagine what has gone on here when you've literally got the exact right characters for S600, yet for some unknown reason they put 600S. There was never such a thing as a 600S. So let's load it up onto a trailer. Big thank you to Dunt Barn for looking after this car until I can bring a trailer down, get it over to the workshop and find out everything that's wrong with the S600 long wheelbase. Currently it's not changing gear and it's lurching every time it goes into gear. As I mentioned, it's got no MOT, so we're going to go load it up onto a trailer and take it to my friend's Charles Gates Racing to see exactly what's wrong with the gearbox. If anything else is wrong with it, which there's every possibility there will be because it's been off the road for nearly 10 years, and then we're going to take it for an MOT.
So the weather's taken a bit of a turn, but we safely arrived to my friend's Charles Gates Racing on the trailer. Let's unload the car and find out everything that's wrong with it. I'm getting quite nervous at this point. I'm honestly no idea what we're in for with this car, if it needs a new gearbox, if the gearbox needs rebuilt. So Charlie here at Charles Gates Racing is something of a legend. He works on all of my cars, from my 500,000 mile wagon all the way up to my CLK Black Series. So he's got a bit of an idea what could be causing the problem with this beast, but I'm going to leave it to it and update you in a moment.
Wow, so I can't quite believe it. I thought this was going to be a really long project, and don't get me wrong, there's still plenty to do. But I was actually speechless. I went round to my friends at Charles Gates Racing and he had the car out front. I said, "Oh, have you been driving it?" He said, "Yeah, I've got it changing gear." And I honestly thought we were going to have to take the gearbox out and rebuild or replace it. But all he had to do was clean the connectors off the gearbox ECU, and suddenly this thing changes gear. It's a fully functioning car. Just like that, it's doubled in value. So now we're taking it for an MOT, and this is where I really could be in for anything. This car hasn't had an MOT in almost a decade. I've got no idea what might be wrong with it, but it's an ambitious MOT very much, but also a cheap way to inspect a car and find out if it needs anything done. So we're taking it to the MOT centre now, and fingers crossed, touch wood, we're going to be driving back with a fully road legal car.
One thing I do need to do before going to the MOT is to brim the tank on this car with a bit of Tesco Momentum. The fuel in this car stinks. It's 8 years old. It's really gone stale. There's just a bit left in there, so I'm going to fill it up with the good stuff and see how we get on. This is make or break time now. We're at the MOT centre, Jackson and Phillips. Big thank you to Mikey, Mr. Usually Broken Cars, for letting me get up close, obviously at a safe distance, with the MOT test, to capture a little bit of this process to show you. For those of you who aren't familiar, an MOT is a test, and it stands for Ministry of Transport, and it makes sure that your car is roadworthy. Unless a car is very old or very new, every single car on the road has to have a valid MOT, otherwise it can't be driven. And as I mentioned, this car hasn't had an MOT in something like 8 years because it's been sat in a barn, so this is long overdue. They're actually testing the brakes now on this roller. Obviously, I've looked at the brake discs and pads to make sure they're in good condition, but I've honestly no idea if the strength is up to the legal requirement. In an MOT, they also check the car's emissions, but this is a big thirsty V12 and the car's been sat for years, so I really don't know if it's going to pass.
So we've just come from the MOT centre, and this car truly is the gift that keeps on giving. They kindly let me film what was going on from a distance, and I've actually never watched a whole MOT take place, and a lot more goes into it than I thought. But it passed. There were some advisories, but nothing serious, and the car passed. I can't believe it. I'm so delighted with this car. It's so smooth. Don't get me wrong, there's still a lot to do on it. We've got quite a bad vibration through the wheels. Bear in mind that these tyres will have sat with not a lot of air in them in a barn for nearly 10 years, so we need new tyres really. They'll have flat spots on them. The car needs fully serviced, because obviously I didn't want to do any of those things, spend money on it before knowing if it was going to pass its MOT. So far, all I've spent on this car is £75 to fill the tank with petrol. Everything else has just been a little bit of ingenuity and elbow grease, especially from the guys at Charles Gates Racing.
One thing that I like to do whenever I buy a new car is have a good sort through the boot, the glove box, underneath the seats, etc. See what I can find, see what the car has or hasn't come with. I've got gloves on because I really don't know what I'm in for. Already taken quite a few things out of the boot, including the fridge, which I can't wait to see whether that thing works. Found some strange things as well, a belt, which I certainly will not be keeping. Clearing out of the boot, and I've found a nice surprise. It shouldn't be a surprise, given that I knew that mice had been in here causing trouble. But yeah, I didn't really expect to see this. Look at all those mouse droppings. There's actually 2 bottles of water inside the fridge. A little bit mouldy. What's the use by date on this? There you go. Best before February 2013. 11-year-old water hiding in the fridge. I really hope the fridge works. So I've just plugged the fridge in. Interestingly, this connector here for the fridge to the car, I've got my R129 here. It's exactly the same. Perhaps I shouldn't be surprised as they're both Mercedes, although this one is 10 years older. Exactly the same as the connector for the heated rear screen for the hardtop. So, interesting little fact. And unfortunately, I need to screw it in. It's a little bit loose. But no one seems to be home with the fridge. So I'll have to look what's going on there. Maybe it's a fuse or something. But it's all nice and tidy now. I'm back in place. But yeah, fridge isn't working at the moment. So one thing that's not working on this car is the air conditioning. Turn it on, everything lights up, you can set the temperature, you can set the speed, but nothing blows out of the vents. So common problem on these is the blower, which is a big fan under there, inside here. So I've just removed the glove box in order to gain access to it. First things first, I'm taking out the air filters, and wow, there's a lot of crap in there. It's quite annoying actually, because if it wasn't for where the mouse had clearly been living, pooing, chewing, then this air filter looks pretty much brand new. So this proved really quite difficult. To get this piece off, not only do you have to, in Mercedes' infinite wisdom, apologies for the mess, undo 3 different types of screw. You've also got to pull these tabs down here to get this piece off, and then slide the whole panel down to get it out the dashboard. However, for some unknown reason, this piece here just wouldn't come out of its hole. I tried everything. I tried a hammer, and then in the end we had to get the big guns out and wear that piece down. Thankfully no casualties anywhere else in the car using this saw. And finally we've got it free, just one step closer to getting the heater motor out. And that was a miserable job. There's rubbish everywhere. I've cut my hands, I'm sweating, I'm swearing. I have noticed one thing though. That doesn't look very good. It's a bit burnt and melted, so that could be part of the problem. But yeah, we'll give this a proper look over. Maybe it needs a new fan, maybe it needs a new plug there. Let's see, hopefully we can get the air conditioning working.
So there was no better way to celebrate the car passing the MOT than giving it a proper wash inside and out. You'll actually see the difference I was able to make on the leather. I'll overlay some pictures. Unfortunately, didn't take any video. Was stunning. This car is really coming back to life. Sadly, this is the UK, so it's rained. The car's wet again. But there's one last thing to do. I said I was going to do it earlier. We need to take this badge off because this is a crime. I've got two things with me. Both of them have got nothing to do with cars. We've got a hairdryer and dental floss. And then finally, the Topaz tar and glue remover, just in case there's any residue left behind from the badge. If you're actually interested in getting some of this yourself, or any of the other products like the stuff I use for the snow foam, for the leather cleaner, then you can actually save 25% off anything at thetopazshop.com using my code HBH25. But enough of that, let's crack on with removing this badge.
So there we go, the 600S badge has been removed. I'll have to get myself a nice new set of those because they're destined for the floor, which of course will correctly say S600. Anyway, that's it for this video. In the next video, we're going to service the car and start using it properly. So lots more exciting adventures to come with the S600 long wheelbase.